If I told you that what you are about to watch is not a lecture but a living act of alchemy happening now through the screen, would you believe me? If you clicked, it is because something inside you has been nudged, a small hunger that will not be ignored. Long before modern science and long before the tidy labels of religion, a voice whispered laws about how reality responds to mind and intention. That voice is the lineage we call Hermeticism, and at its modern doorway sits the Kybalion. Hermes Trismegistus stands like a doorway between the visible and the invisible, a figure whose presence smells of warm papyrus and distant salt air, whose breath sounds like dry pages turning, whose silhouette tastes like bitter coffee taken at dawn. This teaching does not reveal itself to everyone. It arrives for those ready to tear the veil. I will show you not only the history, but how these laws function in your life today. By the end of this video, you will have a practical method to begin transmuting internal states into external changes, a short exercise you can do tonight that will alter the frequency you carry. Stay with me with full attention because this is not speculation. It is a manual for inner initiation and for application. Long before cities named on maps and before laboratories recorded outcomes, seekers gathered in places that smelled of resin and lamp smoke, places like the library of a forgotten port and the courtyard where Mira taught children to listen. The initiate spoke of mentalism, of vibration, of a unity under everything. The Kybalion, despite being a recent articulation, comes from that current, and its lines echo older words from sages, from Buddha to the Desert Fathers, from alchemical scribes to astronomers who charted the sound of the spheres. Imagine a temple where the walls feel cool under your palm, where the echoes of a chanting voice mingle with the metallic tang of a candle, where the teacher Elias traces a symbol with ash on clay, his voice low and the air tasting faintly of citrus. Those details are not decoration. They are evidence of an oral current preserved across cultures. When you witness authority like that, you do not merely receive facts. You are invited to the practice of initiation. The history matters because it roots the laws in human experience, in centuries of experiment, not in a lab, but in life. I will refer to Hermes Trismegistus, to the Kybalion, to the idea that all is mental, and I will tie these to contemporary observations such as the experiment of the observer from physics and the measurable effects of attention on outcomes. Together, tradition and observation give us a map and a compass. Before we dive deeper, let us outline the laws as they appear in the Kybalion in plain language. The 7 that matter here are mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Mentalism tells us the universe is mind or consciousness at root. Correspondence shows how patterns repeat across scales. Vibration says nothing rests, everything moves at its own frequency. Polarity reveals that opposites are simply extremes of the same thing. Rhythm declares cycles govern change. Cause and effect anchors us to responsibility. Gender explains creative forces present in all phenomena. Picture them as lenses you can use to read your days. One by one, we will open them, give you examples and exercises, and show how shifting a single thought can alter a chain of events. The central promise I make now is practical. You will learn how to recognize a dominant mental pattern, how to transmute its energy, and how to apply a small ritual of alignment that changes what you magnetize into your life. Mentalism means that everything begins in mind. The phrase is simple, but its implications are radical. Think of how a thought rises like a color in the sky, how a suspicion tastes metallic, how a memory brings a physical tension to your shoulders. Here is an analogy. Imagine a radio tuned to a station. Your mind sets the frequency and the contents follow. This is not mystical wishful thinking. Contemporary science shows that observation collapses possibilities into outcomes. The presence of the observer changes the observed. In meditation, you can test this. Sit in a quiet room that smells faintly of cedar. Feel the grain of the wooden chair under your thighs. Hear the hum of distant traffic. Close your eyes and notice a single thought that repeats. It may be frustration, a memory, a plan. Observe it like mirror, from the courtyard watching a raindrop on a window pane. See its color, hear its inner voice, feel its texture on your chest. Now intentionally shift it to a small image of gratitude. Notice how your breathing changes, how the taste in your mouth softens, how a tightness in your jaw loosens. That is mentalism working. Simple experiments like this, performed daily, recalibrate your baseline. A short practical exercise. For 5 minutes tonight, record a dominant thought. Then deliberately cultivate its opposite or a refined variant for 7 minutes. Track what changes the next day. This is not magic. It is disciplined attention applied with intention. To make the principle real, let me tell you a story about a gardener named Tomas and a stubborn plot of soil. The plot lay behind a cracked gate, smelling of damp earth and citrus peel, the surface rough under bare feet, the air thick with the metallic click of a distant gate and the sweet taste of olives from a neighbor's tree. Tomas planted seed after seed and nothing sprouted. He blamed weather, he blamed thieves, he blamed fate. Then Asha, a neighbor who read the Kybalion in the evenings by lamp, suggested a new approach. She asked Tomas to record every expectation he had about that soil, the small thoughts he muttered when tugging weeds, the way his palms felt when he touched the earth. Elias watched from his doorway, tasting the smoke of his pipe, hearing the scrape of a hoe, watching Tomas's shoulders knot. They discovered Tomas habitually whispered defeat into the soil. They taught him to change the dialogue into statements of possibility, to touch the earth with reverence, to water while imagining tiny green shoots as if they already existed. Over weeks the ground warmed, the smell of wet moss intensified, the sound of rain on leaves became a promise, and tiny green points pushed through. The lesson was cause and effect made intimate. Your habitual inner narration acts as seed. The gardener example shows that small changes in inner tone have measurable outer consequences. Now consider polarity, rhythm, and transmutation. Life oscillates like a pendulum between states. You will always have opposite experiences, joy and sorrow, confidence and doubt. That is not failure, it is structure. Understanding polarity lets you transmute by shifting viewpoint. If you find yourself at a low frequency with the taste of iron, the chill on your skin, the heavy weight in your chest, practice a technique used by initiates to transmute. Breathe deeply and name the pole you wish to approach, not by denying the current state, but by magnifying small contrarian elements within it. For instance, when uncertainty tastes sour and the world looks gray, find one concrete micro-detail that feels alive. Jonah noticed a single bird singing outside his window and focused on the pitch and rhythm of its sound. He traced the vibration until his shoulders loosened and his day changed course. Rhythm teaches that cycles are inevitable, so instead of resisting, you learn to surf them. Transmutation is the work of alchemy. It requires attention, precise language, and a physical practice that anchors the change. One method is to write a short phrase that rephrases your dominant thought into a creative prompt. Speak it aloud with steady breath while holding a small object that connects to intention, like a smooth stone or a cup of tea. Then perform a simple action to seal it, such as placing the stone on a windowsill where it will be warmed by sunlight. This is the moment to pause and hear from you. If what you are feeling is stirred, if surprise or skepticism or a quiet readiness sits in your chest, take a breath and leave one word in the comments now. Curious, skeptical, or ready. That small act of registering helps others and helps me shape the next episode. I read every response and I save them to guide the exercises we build together. Your single word becomes a signal in a collective field, and it matters more than you think. Thank you for sharing. Now we go deeper into rhythm and practical application. There are 3 moments in my own work when tension peaked and taught me the shape of a principle. The first arrived on a night when the city smelled of petrol and jasmine, and my hands shook with fear. I sat with Nora at a table that tasted of bitter tea, the lamplight warm on our knuckles, the room filled with the scratch of a pen and the distant hum of a bus.
Nora asked me to tell the exact thought that had grown heavy. I said the words and the air seemed to contract. The sound of the street dimmed, the texture of the chair sharpened. For 2 long minutes we held that thought like an object, and then we reframed it. The release was not immediate, but the first crack formed, and in that crack a new breath entered. The second moment came during a winter when Mira fell ill, and the household felt like a frozen stream. Sounds were muffled, the scent of lemon soap dissolved, and confidence slipped into doubt. Here, polarity taught us to hold grief and possibility at once, and to shift attention to tiny acts of care that vibrated differently. The third tension was when a public lecture failed, a voice against a silent room, a taste of copper on my tongue, the echo of my words bouncing off cold walls. In that failure, I learned a method to transmute humiliation into clarity. Witness the memory with compassion, extract the specific lesson, and rehearse a new approach with a partner like Malik, who practiced lines with me until the muscles remembered a more resilient way of speaking. Practical usage of the Kybalion has to be clear and repeatable. Here is a step-by-step morning protocol you can do in under 20 minutes. First, sit and ground. Feel the weight of your body on the chair. Notice 5 sounds around you. Inhale and taste the air. Second, perform a quick inventory of dominant thoughts. Write 1 sentence. Third, choose 1 line to transmute. Phrase it as a small creative ask rather than a broad demand. For example, instead of saying, "I will be wealthy," say, "I will notice and respond to 1 new opportunity this week." Fourth, pair the phrase with a sensory anchor. Hold a cup of warm tea and imagine the phrase as a color moving through your chest like light warming porcelain. Feel the texture of the cup, hear the steam, smell the herbs, taste the warmth. Fifth, take 1 tiny action in the next hour that aligns with the phrase. It can be an email, a call, a walk. Record the result at the end of the day. Repeat this ritual for 7 days and notice shifts in frequency. Be aware of common pitfalls. Do not confuse wishful thinking with disciplined practice. Do not expect sudden miracles without repeated attention. The work of initiation is patience with urgency. Along the way, you will meet guides and companions. I will name people who appear in these teachings to anchor lessons in human life. Mira taught the listening practice in the courtyard. Elias kept a ledger of experiments with meditation and movement. Sophia documented results in a journal that smelled of ink and lemon. Tomas was the gardener who learned about cause and effect. Asha read the Kybalion aloud to neighbors. Malik rehearsed public speech as a ritual. Nora held the group through illness, and Jonah noticed the sounds that shifted those around him. These people are here to remind you that initiation often happens in communities and through ordinary relationships. Use their examples. Borrow their approaches. Test them in your life. As we close, I will bring you an epilogue that moves through 3 moments in time so you can place this learning across past, present, and future. In the past, there is a memory many of you share. Perhaps you sat alone at a table with a book that smelled of dust and possibility, your fingers tracing diagrams as if to remember an old architecture of meaning. You felt a small ignition then, a sense that reality could be known as a pattern. That moment taught you to listen. Its sound was soft but persistent, like a single bell in fog. In the present, you are here with me. The room you sit in may smell of coffee or rain. The light may touch your face. You hear the distant rhythm of city life or the hush of night. Recognize that your presence is not passive. The fact that you clicked is a criterion of readiness. Use the small exercises given tonight. Keep a daily log and speak 1 word in the comments to anchor your field. Notice how the body responds when you change a repeated thought. Track the cadence of your days like a musician learning a new tempo. For the future, imagine a version of yourself who has practiced these methods for 6 months. Feel the difference in posture, the steadiness of a new voice, the smell of fresh pages turned with purpose, the sound of friends reporting results, the taste of tempered joy. That future is not a wish, but a plausible outcome when the daily practices are honored. Keep this image as a directional star and return to it when rhythm tries to pull you away. To finish, one simple exercise you can do in the next 24 hours. Find a quiet spot, place a small object in your hand, set a timer for 7 minutes, identify one repeating thought, and speak a single transmutation phrase aloud while breathing slowly. Record any immediate shift in sensation in a notebook. If this resonated, the Kybalion text is linked in the description as a resource for those who want to read the original articulation. If you leave one single word in the comments now, it will help me create the next video and will let others know they are not alone. Remember that Hermeticism is not a promise of instant fix, but a method of training attention that reshapes frequency over time. The reality you experience is not random. It is a mirror of what you cultivate within.
Tonight, and return to report what changed. We will continue in the next episode where we apply polarity in relationships and build a sequence of daily transmutation practices. Reality is not accident. It is conversation. Keep speaking with care, and we will answer back together.